mourning another fallen soldier. But to the system that's been hungry for Bronx drill rappers since the scene blew up. When Dthang stepped in that Miami courtroom last week, the judge didn't hesitate. One glance at his record had her doubling the bond, but that was just the beginning. This is the story of rapper Dthang's sentencing. Miami Heat. September 29, 2025 was supposed to be just another bond hearing for a felon with a firearm charge that suddenly flipped when prosecutors pulled out receipts on the additional weight Dthang caught while already out on bond. The judge coldly congratulated him on being down on felony bond before dropping the bombshell that he had revoked his bond. Like he got caught lacking in court, and the ops pulled his freedom card.
Yeah, big ski.
Jack that, yeah, ski pull, yeah, jack that.
Fuck you talking about, nigga? Nigga say, yeah, bang it down, nigga. Go for the CO. Go for the CO, nigga. EYGK, big dog. You talking about, go for the CO.
Just like that, the Bronx's drill hope went from facing a standard $7,500 bond to staring down indefinite lockup. The timeline exposes everything. Back on June 29, 2025, Dthang got booked in Miami's TGK Correctional for carrying a Glock as a convicted felon. In Florida, that's 15 years with a 3-year mandatory minimum. At first, everyone expected the feds to swoop in like they did with Pooh Shiesty, but surprisingly, he bonded out for $15,000 after the judge reduced it from $25,000. That freedom was borrowed time. Less than 3 months later, Miami-Dade police ran up on Dthang again, this time catching him with over 20 grams of Zaza and white girl residue. Third-degree felonies on top of felonies, all while out on bond for the first. Triple self-snitching in a state that's known for burying drill rappers. Dthang's public defender argued entrapment, pointing to Miami's confusing weed laws. But prosecutors dismissed the claim, insisting that his history clearly showed recidivism. The judge, unmoved, delivered the cold reality by telling him that Florida wasn't the Bronx.
He came to me. Can you please get out the car? No. You asked us to come. You asked us to come. No. Can you please? I'm asking you, please.
No. No.
That shit.
I'm not one of them niggas. I'm not one of the niggas.
I don't have a nigga. Deal with nigga. You. You're every other nigga. Deal with shit like this. I just told you, you're every other nigga. Every other nigga.
Listen, any nigga you ever talk to in your life.
Don't care.
Now the consequences stack up like charges. Florida's stance on felons with firearms means 15 years state time with 3 years mandatory minimum. The cocaine possession adds another 5 potential years. The Zaza over 20 grams adds another 5, and then the bond violation that could amplify everything. Miami ain't playing with drill rappers, especially ones from out of town with New York criminal history. What makes this particular case is how Dthang caught back-to-back charges in record time. By early October, whispers of a plea deal surfaced, prosecutors offering 10 to 15 years minimum with lifetime supervised release if Dthang flips on his RPT connections. As a 3-time felon in Florida's system, the sentencing guidelines mandate severe stacking that could effectively end his career. What makes this different from other rapper arrests is the French-Montana connection that almost saved him the first time. After the initial charge, many believe French-Montana's connections in Dubai was used to help secure that first bond. Dthang clarified that he wasn't officially signed to French, saying he needed $5 million to consider any deal. But all the money in Dubai couldn't save him from the second arrest. RPT soldier. To understand why Dthang's fall hits different, you gotta know where he rose from. Dthang entered the world on September 19, 2002 in the unforgiving blocks of River Park Towers, Bronx, a section of New York where poverty grips hard and opportunity slips through cracks in the projects. The Cross Bronx Expressway's constant hum was the soundtrack to a childhood shaped more by absence than presence. His single mother, grinding as a home health aide, left him navigating the concrete jungle with cousins who became his shield. The Edenwald houses were the forge that hammered raw talent into the explosive force that would later ignite Bronx drill. By age 10, Dthang was already memorizing Chicago drill flows from Chief Keef and Lil Durk, their tales of retaliation echoing the gunshots that punctuated Bronx nights. Dthang's first bars weren't spit in studios but stairwells of Edenwald, where concrete walls amplified freestyles that caught the attention of River Park Towers, a crew that would become both his family and his downfall. RPT wasn't just letters, it was protection against the encroaching ops like OY from Harlem. Dthang quickly became RPT's voice, recording early tracks on borrowed phones in dimly lit basements. The breakthrough came in 2021 when Talk Facts dropped, a visceral diss track aimed squarely at rivals that clocked millions of YouTube views within weeks. The video, shot guerrilla style on Bronx corners with ski masks and props, showcased Dthang's signature style, high-pitched, frantic delivery blending menace with melody. Caution, his follow-up went viral on TikTok, with teens across the country recreating its hook in challenges. By mid-2021, Dthang had reportedly locked in a six-figure deal with 10K projects, and his IG went from thousands to over 500K, straight viral. Collabs with Use G's and Nesty Jeezys stamped him as the godfather of Bronx drill, that hybrid wave mixing Chee's raw aggression with New York's sharp precision. His come-up ran side by side with K-Flock's rise, sparking a legendary rivalry that turned both into icons. But in drill, fame comes stamped with a blood price. Dthang's record has been stacking since way before the clout. On November 14, 2021, NYPD's Bronx Gang Squad snatched him in a pre-dawn raid that flipped the script. A 65-count indictment named 34 RPT members, framing them as a full-blown criminal enterprise tied to 15 even attempted that prosecutors claimed were fueled by drill diss tracks. Dthang got hit with conspiracy in the second degree and caught for 3 loaded poles from a traffic stop. Judge set bond at $200,000, leaving him stuck in Rikers as his momentum slowed. Even locked, he dropped Jail Freestyle off the phone line, a raw street sermon that hit 10 million views. Bars prosecutors called veiled threats, but fans crowned as drill gospel. The case dragged into 2023, with courtroom drama including a February scuffle with alleged OY affiliates. His lawyer fought to prevent his lyrics from being used as evidence, citing First Amendment precedents. Sentencing day finally arrived on April 20, 2023, with the judge acknowledging the inflammatory nature of Dthang's art but balking at RICO overreach. The judge slapped Dthang with 3 to 5 years on the strap charges, but credited him for the 18 months he already sat down. With good behavior, he could touch the road in months instead of years. Outside the courthouse, supporters pressed with the media, yelling "Free Dthang" as chants bounced off the Fed steps. A small win that didn't last long. The real weight behind Dthang's story ain't just the music, it's how the trenches carved his moves. One Reddit fan said, "He'll be home soon, it's a $15,000 bond, $1,500 is 10%, if not a single, like K-Hound. Diff or B-Guns bails him out, they are do-bads. I would cut ties with all of them, if him Dthang they don't bail him out. He's one of the..." He lost his first close homie in a 2019 drive-by tied to OY beef, and instead of letting it break him, he bled the pain into bars as therapy. That's why the Miami crash-out hit harder. A project kid who survived the Bronx jungle, only to spiral in the Sunshine State, swapping one concrete battlefield for another. His path mirrored drill's curse. Real-life scars bring the fans. Fans bring the spotlight brings the law, and the law brings the cell. Before Miami flipped his script, Dthang had already danced with New York's justice system and came out halfway clean. April 2023, the judge went light. No RICO, no decades buried. Just a bid that the streets called lenient. But that mercy bred a false sense of bulletproof, and he carried that same energy down to Florida, a state where the courts don't play by Bronx rules. January 8, 2024, he touched the road from Otis Bantam Correctional after 26 months inside. The parole came heavy. No sticks, no gang ties, weekly check-ins, and a curfew clock. But freedom with no blueprint is a setup, and instead of laying low, he jetted to Miami, a move that would end up taxing everything he had stacked. Chain reaction. When Dthang tasted freedom on January 8, 2024, nobody could have predicted how quickly the cycle would repeat. Stepping out of Otis Bantam Correctional after 26 months inside, his black hoodie couldn't hide the hope in his eyes. He stepped out the gate to a handful of diehards, telling them the cell only sharpened him. But re-entry hit different than expected. The New York drill landscape had shifted. New drillers like Edot Baby were nipping at his heels, while old OY beef simmered under the surface. Dthang initially kept it low-key, holing up in his mom's Soundview apartment while plotting the comeback that would restore his crown. The machine started moving fast. By February, Dthang had reportedly secured a 7-figure management deal with Gumbo Brands backed by French Montana's Coke Boys, followed by a 10K projects renewal. Still Buggin' dropped in February 2024, a banger sampling old Bronx soul that peaked at number 45 on Billboard's Hot R&B/hip-hop songs. Fans devoured it, with around 1.2 million streams in week 1. By summer 2024, Dthang was fully back in motion. Webster Hall sold out, a BET Cypher nod, even a careful collab with Lil Durk that played off their shared cases. The music shifted too, less diss-heavy, more war stories about lost time and parole shackles. Then Miami flipped the script. What was supposed to be a post-tour networking run to tap South Beach producers turned into the crack in his armor. September 28, 2025, Ocean Drive. Miami-Dade pulled him over for a cracked taillight, but NYPD intel had already flagged the plate. A routine stop turned career-ending bust. Glock 19 under the seat, 25 grams of gas in designer packs, cocaine residue sitting ugly in the glove box. For a convicted felon on federal parole, this wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was a violation cascade. The charges stacked. Possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, which could land him up to 15 years. Cocaine possession, which was 5 years. And then an extra 1 year for cannabis, plus parole revocation that could stack decades from his original sentence. Extradition loomed, with feds eyeing RICO enhancements for continuing criminal enterprise. Arraignment on September 29th was a circus. In Dade County Courthouse, the judge set bond at $5,000 for state charges, but held him for federal review facing another judge on October 3rd. His public defender argued entrapment, citing Miami's lax weed laws, but prosecutors countered with his rap sheet. This defendant's history screams recidivism. By October 2nd, whispers of a plea deal surfaced. 10 to 15 years minimum with lifetime supervised release if he flips on RPT ties. Goodbye forever wasn't hyperbole. As a 3-time felon, guidelines mandated severe stacking. What makes this pattern so devastating is the short window between release and recapture. Dthang spent nearly 2 years fighting for freedom, only to lose it again in less than 9 months. This cycle mirrored what 1090 Jake laid out in one of his breakdowns. When a rapper goes down for years, the game don't freeze for them. By the time they touch back down, the sound has shifted, the vibes evolved, and the audience's loyalty ain't guaranteed. Dthang's comeback was rare because he actually had the streets tuned in again. But Miami proved how fragile that window really was. One bad move and everything he rebuilt could vanish overnight. The industry impact was immediate. Bronx streets mourned with fresh murals. His label halted projects. His sister jumped online with emotional pleas, telling fans her brother was untouched, healthy, and blessed. She reminded everybody that everything could vanish in a second, urging people to live it up and cherish what they got while it lasts. His right-hand man hit social, saying nobody would ever get their story and that he'd ride and love him forever. K-Flock's call that Dthang was losing his soul started hitting differently. Locked up on his own case, K-Flock's warning that Dthang was bugging out there felt prophetic. One Reddit user even pointed out that K-Flock was probably wishing he could be out there instead, making the whole scene look even messier. This sequence mirrors other drill artists' crashes. Bobby Shmurda struggled to regain footing after release. Young Thug faced creative roadblocks post-legal issues. The pattern repeats because time away makes it nearly impossible to catch up. One analyst pointed out that while they're stuck where they left off, the world keeps moving forward without them. For someone from nothing, Miami's flashy scene added pressure. Rocking a Coke Boys chain while getting caught with actual coke, observers noted, Coke Boys for real now. Without steady music income, slipping back into old ways became all too easy. Dthang's fall shows how fast momentum can vanish. From headlining Summer Stage in July 2025 for 5,000 fans to a county jail cell by October, the whiplash is real. The Envy video that hit 1 million views in August now feels like a distant memory, replaced by mugshots and court clips that spread even faster. The most painful part isn't just what Dthang lost, it's what Bronx drill lost. As a pioneer, his voice carried neighborhoods that rarely get heard. Now, with him and K-Flock locked down, the scene loses its most authentic storytellers, leaving imitators who can't match the lived experience that made their verses hit hard. Dead end. The fallout from Dthang's second fall spreads far beyond his own grind. With bond officially revoked and feds watching, his fate now sits in a system built to make examples of drill rappers. The judge denying bond ain't just county time while fighting the case. It's a clear message that Florida plans to hit Dthang with the full force of the law. For RPT and Bronx drill, this cuts deeper than most. Dthang wasn't just a rapper. He was the architect of the Bronx drill sound, that frantic, high-pitched delivery that made the subgenre instantly identifiable. Without him, the scene loses a key piece of its foundation just as it's trying to stay relevant. His arrest leaves a dangerous void. Young RPT up-and-comers who watch Dthang's comeback now see the swift consequences of mixing fame with old habits. The planned G's Movement label, which aimed to funnel street talent into studios instead of cells, now sits on hold, dreams deferred by bad choices in a different state. Miami's role can't be ignored. For a freshly released felon trying to get his money and his name right, the pressure to flex in South Beach likely pushed him back into familiar, dangerous patterns. The French-Montana connection raises more questions than answers. While many believe French's backing would provide the structure Dthang needed, his failure to properly sign and develop the young artist may have left him in limbo. Access to high-profile connections without the financial stability to navigate those circles responsibly. Legal heads see a rough road ahead for Dthang. The firearm charge alone can lock him up for 15 years in Florida, with a mandatory 3-year minimum. Stack on cocaine possession, over 20 grams of cannabis, and a parole violation, and the numbers turn into decades, not just years. At 22, he's staring at emerging from prison in middle age, into a music game that'll barely recognize the streets he once owned. The courtroom showed just how real it is. The confident bravado that fueled his tracks vanished in front of the judge, replaced by quiet mumbling as reality hit. His sister's post made it clear. The family's hurt ran deep, saying when it was okay to love him, everybody did. But when it was okay to hate, everybody did that too. Critics see Dthang's fall as another warning about the drill's unsustainable blueprint. Unlike other rap styles where artists evolve as they age, drill's obsession with street beef and local beef creates a dead end when circumstances shift. As one analyst put it, some drill artists can't make tracks that get women moving or club heads hyped. They're locked into rapping about someone, and when the streets change, so does their relevance. When a rival like K-Flock is locked up or the beef fades, the whole foundation collapses. Dthang's first post-release work hinted at growth, sampling soul, digging into introspection, but old habits pulled him back before that new sound could fully land. The pattern's familiar among drill stars. Florida's KSOO ended up facing life after lyrics about ops got used as evidence. Tay K spun a fugitive saga into the race before catching 55 years. Casanova traded a shot at mainstream fame for 15 federal years. Drill stats don't lie. Thriving long-term without jail is rare. Bronx streets are split on Dthang's fall. Overnight, free Dthang murals pop up, while rivals drop mocking clips celebrating his mess-up. His streams keep climbing, the ultimate irony. The arrest hype fuels numbers he can't even cash in on. What comes next hinges on Dthang's legal moves. He could take the rumored plea, 10 to 15 years with a chance to cooperate, or roll the dice at trial against a mountain of evidence. Federal involvement could make things even harsher, like Pooh Shiesty's case, where plea deals still meant decades behind bars. The Bronx mourns another lost king while Miami treats him like just another number. For now, Dthang sits locked in TGK Correctional, his mic silenced, his fire dimmed, staring down a sentence that feels almost certain. The Soundview Kid becomes another grim reminder. In drill, the grind can elevate you, but it can bury you just as fast. If you like this video, click one of the windows on either side to watch a video similar to this one.